I'm glad you mentioned that it's still okay to be a generalist. I don't hear that much. In my circles, we talk a lot about specializing in something, specializing in data, specializing in Python. I had a guest on, a couple of weeks ago. We were talking about Python and R, and that's a specialty that has been growing in the industry. You mentioned it, so it's clearly growing in the overall tech industry. But there's still room for people to be generalists, which means that some other skill sets are still needed. And I'm curious if you've seen training or certifications that are out there that are relevant, maybe new, maybe old, that we should consider.
Right. I can only speak to, I totally agree with you. And just stay with Python, for example. I'm not saying don't know Python, because Python is used all the time. And in fact, just the other day, I was in a situation where I was dealing with something that we use for our open data portal. And it had a place where you could just drop a couple lines of Python script. And it was a classic case of, I would need to know this much Python. Just a little tiny bit of Python is all you need to know to get that done. You don't need to be a huge expert in it. You just need to be able to understand and read it. And, I always use the analogy, we're IT people here, so I can do IT dork things. In the movie The Matrix, there's a moment, it's movies, so I always got to tie back to movies. In the movie The Matrix, there's a moment where one of the characters has to fly a helicopter. And obviously, if people haven't seen The Matrix, this makes no sense. But, in the movie The Matrix, they're able to plug directly into their brains with a big metal spike. So she says, I need to know how to fly a helicopter. And the guy takes the, little disc with the helicopter knowledge, jams it in the computer, and it downloads into her brain. And now she can fly a helicopter. That's how it is being a generalist in IT. You might need to go write some JavaScript. Okay, hang on, let me go Google and do a copy paste on some JavaScript that I found, and I'll get it working in 45 minutes, but that's all I needed to know. So a lot of it is just knowing enough to get things done sometimes is sufficient. But from a certification standpoint, something that I've been exposed to that I was really impressed by the program is the Google IT support certificate, which is, it's truly a generalist, because you learn everything from building computers to setting up networks to end user support and office tools. But if you're trying to get a job, if you really want to come into IT and get a job, in any place, being in IT support and being that kind of a generalist is a very common need across every organization. So if you truly are coming in cold, if you are coming out of school and want to, you may not have an IT degree, but you want to get into an IT field, or if you're doing a mid-career change and don't want to stop and go through a huge amount of schooling, something like the IT support certificate is, from my perspective, and I have to clearly say that this is just my opinion, I think is a wonderful way to get on the ground and doing an IT support role, which can then lead to a career. Because one of the secrets of the employment world is that getting in and getting a job is obviously a huge step. And once you're in that job, then the second half begins, because the second half is doing the job, doing a good job at the work, and continuing to grow within the organization. And it's a wonderful story that you'll see all the time, where you see people who are very high level people in an organization, in an IT organization. And you say, well, how did you get your job? And they say, well, 20 years ago, I was a GIS intern here, or I started on the help desk and then worked my way up. You can have that kind of a career in government, because like I referenced earlier, people tend to stay around a long time. And so you can build a career up from the ground level. Getting in on that ground level is obviously the first big challenge. But I'm a huge fan of that Google IT support certificate.
If you enjoyed today's content, be sure to subscribe. Your support helps ensure that we can continue to bring you great technology professionals who are passionate about helping you become a great tech pro who is in high demand.